If you listen closely when you stand by the banks of Havenwood Creek, you can hear it. Not just the water, but a whisper beneath it. A sound like dry leaves skittering over stone, even in the dead of summer. The people of Havenwood, they don't listen. They've perfected the art of not hearing, of looking away. It's a town built on a foundation of deliberate forgetfulness. But the creek remembers. It's the silent witness to every secret this town has tried to bury. It flows through the heart of our history, carrying echoes of the first vanishing, a name from the town's founding days that no one dares to speak aloud anymore. They say the shadow of the creek took them then, and it has been taking people ever since. My name is Arthur Corbin. I'm the town historian, a title I inherited along with a dusty office and a legacy of unanswered questions. People think I just keep records of parades and town fairs. But my real work, my obsession, is chronicling the disappearances. The official records are thin, sanitized, but the truth is in the whispers, in the stories people tell when they think no one is listening. It's a history written in fear. Let's start in the summer of 1983. Lily Mae Thompson, 7 years old, a girl with hair the color of corn silk. It was a warm July evening, the air thick with the scent of honeysuckle and the blinking of fireflies. She was playing hide-and-seek with her friends in the meadow that borders the woods. Her mother called her in for dinner. The other kids came running, but Lily didn't. The search started casually at first, neighbors calling her name, their voices hopeful. But as dusk bled into a starless night, that hope curdled into panic. The entire town scoured the woods, flashlights cutting through the oppressive darkness. They found nothing. No sign of a struggle, no tracks, nothing. Just a single muddy shoe, her left one, sitting perfectly upright on a flat stone right at the edge of the creek, as if placed there for them to find. The town eventually settled on the story of a tragic accident, that she must have fallen into the fast-moving current and been washed away. It was easier than confronting the alternative. It's always easier. Then came the 90s. 1996 to be exact. A man named Dr. Alistair Finch. He wasn't one of us. He was a geologist from a university back east, fascinated by the unique granite outcroppings deep in the Havenwood forest. He was methodical, a man of science and reason. He set up a small, tidy campsite about 2 miles into the woods. He was seen in town buying supplies one afternoon, and that was the last time. A week later, a pair of hikers stumbled upon his camp. The tent was zipped closed. Inside, his sleeping bag was neatly rolled. His research notes were laid open on a small folding table, a page detailing the crystalline structure of a local quartz deposit held down by a rock. His half-eaten lunch was still in its container. Everything was perfectly in place, except for Dr. Finch himself. He had simply vanished from the middle of his own life. The search parties found nothing. The official theory was a wildlife encounter, but no experienced tracker could find a single sign of a bear or a mountain lion. The woods were just quiet. The new millennium brought its own darkness. In 2004, it was a local boy, Kevin Price, a teenager, full of bravado. On a dare from his friends, he went into the woods near the creek at midnight. He was supposed to touch the old whispering giant, a massive ancient oak tree that local legend claimed was the heart of the forest. He walked into the trees, his friends watching his flashlight beam disappear. They waited. An hour passed. Then they got a text message from him. There wasn't words. It was just a jumble of symbols and distorted characters, a digital scream. Then, silence. He never came out. His phone was never found. His disappearance was blamed on teenage recklessness. Another convenient story to keep the real fear at bay. My own investigation began in my grandfather's journals. He was the historian before me, and he was less interested in parades and more in the shadows. His handwriting, usually so steady, grew frantic when he wrote about the creek. He never used the word entity or monster. He just called it the shadow. I found one entry from 1958 that still chills me. He wrote, "The cold is back. Not the winter cold, but the other one. The patches of air by the water that steal your breath. The silence is the worst part. It's not empty. It's heavy. The birds stop singing. The insects go still. You feel the trees watching you. The shadow is hungry again. I spent months in the town archives, the smell of dust and decaying paper filling my lungs. I scrolled through endless reels of microfilm, the town's history flickering before my eyes. Faded photographs, old property maps, centuries of forgotten news. That's when I started seeing them, strange recurring symbols, scratched into the background of a photo from the 1920s town picnic, etched onto an old survey map from the 1880s right near the creek. It was the same spiral pattern over and over. This led me to the darkest piece of local folklore, something the founding families never wrote down. The legend of a pact. It said that when Havenwood was founded, it faced starvation and disease. The first settlers, desperate, made a deal with whatever ancient thing lived in the woods. Prosperity for a price. A tithe. It would explain how Havenwood always seemed to thrive when the rest of the country suffered. A quiet prosperity paid for in whispers and disappearances. Over the years, every rational theory has been explored and exhausted. They searched for hidden cave systems. They found none. They hunted for a reclusive hermit or a predator living in the woods. The forest remained empty. Each dead end only amplified the unsettling truth. There was no logical explanation. The quiet was the only answer. My breakthrough, if you can call it that, came one night as I was staring at a large map of the county spread across my floor. On a whim, I took pins and marked the location of every confirmed, unexplained disappearance I could document, going back over a century. Lily's Shoe, Dr. Finch's campsite, the last known spot where Kevin Price's flashlight was seen. As I stepped back, a cold dread washed over me. The pins weren't random. They formed a pattern, a perfect tightening spiral. And at its absolute, undeniable center was the whispering giant, the ancient oak tree. The shadow wasn't just taking people. It was closing in on something, which brings us to 2 weeks ago, to Clara. Her name was Clara Vance, a freelance photographer. She was new to town, drawn here by the very stories we try to forget. Her project was titled Havenwood's Forgotten Folklore. She was trying to capture the feeling of this place, the source of its unsettling quiet. Her car was found abandoned on the old logging road that leads toward the center of the woods. On the passenger seat was her camera bag. The police let me see the camera. They thought the pictures might offer a clue. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the images. The first dozen shots were beautiful, capturing the misty morning light filtering through the trees. Then the photos began to move deeper into the woods, following the path toward the creek. With each frame, the light seemed to be failing, even though the timestamp showed it was mid-morning. The images grew darker, more distorted, the edges of the frame warping as if I was looking through deep water. The last few shots were taken in near total darkness, frantic and unfocused, all except for one, the very last photograph. It was perfectly, impossibly clear. A high-resolution image of the base of the whispering giant oak. And there, coalescing from the gloom between the gnarled roots, was the shadow. It was no longer just a feeling or a cold spot. It had form, vague yet defined. A shape of pure blackness, darker than the night around it, with a long, thin limb and arm stretched out towards the camera. Towards Clara. A new silence has fallen over Havenwood. It's heavier this time. The whole town feels it. We are all holding our breath, waiting. We know the cycle has started again. The spiral has reset. Last night, I walked down to the creek just to listen. And for the first time, the whispers sounded like a name. Over and over, bubbling up from the current. Clara. the creek is learning a new name. And I know, sooner or later, it will learn another. Thanks for listening. Be careful out there.